lots is happening in the crafting world this week, including some unexpected things that people are finding at Joann's in their final week of being open, a baseball player who is somehow related to some top searches in the crafty world, and a documentary about some prisoners' lives who have been changed through quilting for others. Hi, crafting friends. I am Grace. Welcome back to Stitch Stream. This is a place where we talk about what's trending in the DIY world, what kind of things are popular in culture right now that you can probably make yourself. And of course, every time we are going to end with some scientific, research based evidence to help you become a better creative. First, I want to share my favorite DIY that I came across this week. It was very simple, but it has really stuck with me. This is from Kylie Katich. My favorite DIY that I saw this week was from Kylie Katich, and her Instagram and social media is full of these really cool updates that she's done to rooms in her own house and for other people, which I really appreciate. I like how she spent some time doing updates for other people. And the one that I saw this week was for one of her friends. She painted their bathroom. The update was amazing. It went from like this plain white bathroom to this much more beautifully like darker toned bathroom. She used a light shaded brown. What I really appreciate about the update is she did it for less than $50, she says, and the only thing she changed was the paint color. She even put the same decorations back in the bathroom, but somehow the bathroom went from looking like plain Jane builder grade to this really like moody setting, all because she changed the paint color. I really gleaned from this because my whole house is white. I mean, when we moved here, I painted everything white from top to bottom. And while I do like having that fresh palette, there is not a lot of character. And so this felt a little inspirational because sometimes I think DIYs can feel like a little out of touch or just super expensive, or you don't have the time, but surely we can find the time to paint a really tiny bathroom to do some sort of upgrade. So this is going to stick with me and maybe I'll try it. Google Trends were all over the place this week in terms of craftiness. For sewing, the number one search was embroidery machines. I mean, I can't blame people who are looking those up. They look like a lot of fun. The second top related search in regards to the term sewing was Michaels. Now, this is just speculation, but I imagine people are searching this because of the closing of our beloved Joann's. I know we're all feeling a little bummed out about that. The rest of the Joann stores that are still open are set to close this coming Saturday on May 31st, which is a sad day for a lot of people who have been using Joann's as the place that they get all of their fabric or crafting items or sewing supplies, knitting, crochet, etc. I know for my own Joann's, they were set to close this coming Saturday, but unfortunately they had a power outage, and because of those problems, they ended up actually closing their doors early, and they shipped all of their goods to a place that's another store that's like 40 minutes from here. So I don't know if I'm going to make the drive there. I don't really need anything. There's a part of me that wants to go because the hype, but I honestly have a lot of fabric. And speaking of Joann's hype, since we are on this topic, another video that I have seen floating around, I saw it once and I thought, wow, that's crazy. And then I saw like three more people doing this, is apparently you can get that big tomato on the Joann's wall and bring it home. In some of these videos, I saw people, they said I had to climb up on the ladder myself. They said they wouldn't help me with it, but they're like yanking on that tomato on the wall. So, you know what? Good for people. If that's your interest, you should run down to your local Joann's and see if you can snag that tomato. But I have a feeling that they're all gone because these videos had so many views. The term crochet saw quite the spike this week, but not in the way that you probably think. It was actually related to a baseball player. Apparently, Garrett Crochet is a player for the Red Sox, and a lot of people were looking him up this week. Yes, he is married, for anyone who is watching this and thinking, wow, I would love to have that last name, but it is a pretty fun last name. Other crochet terms that were second to Garrett Crochet were a crochet balloon dog, which, that also sounds like a fun thing to make. The top search about knitting this week was related to the Varley Cali knit top. So it wasn't something that people have been making themselves. It's from this brand called Varley. I had never seen them before, but I was browsing through their website. Their stuff is really cute. This particular top retails for $110. And that does seem a little high. I mean, I personally don't spend that much money on tops. This top doesn't look like it would be that crazy to make. If you knit or crochet, please weigh in. I could be totally off base on this. Like perhaps the pattern actually looks very difficult. Speaking of knitting and crocheting, that is something I would like to get into. So if anyone has a suggestion of which one to start with and like what specific supplies I need, just like the bare minimum to get by. I definitely don't want to buy a whole bunch of stuff, but I'd like to use it to make clothing more than like blankets. Clothing is really what interests me, making clothes so I can, pair them with the clothes I sew. So I'm totally open to ideas. Last but not least, in the world of DIY, trending search terms, the thing that is blowing up even in this past week is DIY father's gifts. Now, if you're like me, I have not even started to think about what to be getting for Father's Day for my own dad and my husband, but I guess that there's a lot of people who are more prepared. And if you are making a gift to yourself, it's probably time to start that. So use this as a reminder. Now we have no excuses. I did see one really cute idea for Father's Day also on Kylie Katich's Instagram, where she took a drawing that one of her daughters made and traced it onto a white t-shirt and then embroidered the little drawing design. And then her husband was able to wear that. I thought that would be a really cute Father's Day gift. I finally watched Quilters on Netflix. I thought it was really interesting. This is a documentary. It's about 30 to 40 minutes. I do wish it could have been longer. It followed the stories of a handful of prisoners who have found quilting to be a really positive outlet for them. They make these quilts and they personalize them to the style and names of children in the local foster care system. So I think that the mission is quite interesting, quite impactful. A huge takeaway I had from this was how much purpose these prisoners found. Some of these men have life sentences and they are using the time that they have in prison to make something for others. And they talk about how it has really helped them. One guy talks about how he enjoys making butterfly themed quilts because they remind him of his mother. So he loves to make those when a request for um, something girly comes in, basically. Another guy named Fred, he is making a 60s hippie era themed quilt. There's lots of bright yellows and greens and um, some guitars on it. His quilt was over 3,500 pieces, which is insane. I would not venture to make a 3,500 piece quilt. There's a little bit of tension buildup because he says that it's March and he's supposed to have this quilt done by May and he's not sure if he's going to finish it. And then, right as they do their final reveal, part of it is wrong. And so the guy who's in charge of the quilting says, that will not do. We need to take it apart and redo some of these pieces. So you can tell that there's a lot of care that's put into the process of making these. It was really interesting to watch. Would I like more information on it? Yes. Am I going to dig a little bit more into the stories of these quilters? Also, yes. If I find something else, something interesting, some updates, I'll definitely be sharing. This week's trending things of things I think you can make is kind of general. It's just summer tank tops. Summer tank tops are everywhere and they're typically not crazy expensive. Of course, you can find super cheap ones, but if you are just getting into sewing, this is probably a great place to start. They don't need to be perfect by any means. I really enjoy this video from the Essentials Club. I just made one of these tank tops recently, and at this point, I have done quite a bit of sewing, but it took me under 2 hours, and that's including the time it took to play and pause the video, measure and cut, and put it all together. So when I actually started sewing, my very first garment that I made was something from this video, or my very first top that I made was from this video, and it turned out pretty well. So it's just something fun to do, something good to try. Last but not least, speaking of creativity things, I found this app called Endel. This is going to sound like an ad, and by no means is this an ad, but it really did help me. The research that they cite on their website, I did go through and look at some of these articles myself, and they do seem like legit research articles. They're talking about how soundscapes can help with focus. How does this help with sewing and crocheting and knitting and painting your bathroom, you might ask? Well, in order to reach our final goal of all of these completed projects, we have to start with productivity. And before we can get to productivity, we have to start with attention and focus. Now, it's kind of like a ripple effect, right? We have attention and focus here in the middle, and then we can get productive. And then that final ripple on the very edge is that finished project. We can't just jump in super distracted and expect to finish something on a really short timeline. So I used some of this sound. I had a deadline at work this week, and I ended up just playing it over and over and over. I just got the free app, and it lasted me for 10 minutes, and then I would just have to go back in and play it again. But it really did help me focus. Like, I felt like I was locked in. So when I go through and like maybe edit a video or sew my next project, especially if I have a deadline, I'm going to try to pair the sound with my making experience and see if it helps me. Hopefully, this helps you too. I can only imagine if we pair this sound motivation with what we talked about last week, doing a little exercise before your project. I feel like that would just truly lock in the focus and we would be getting our things done in no time. Thank you so much for listening today. I really enjoy just being able to chat and share about some of these things that I love. I know some of them are so niche, but I don't think I'm the only person out there who is into these things. So it's a lot of fun to create this community. If you enjoyed this, I would really appreciate if you liked the video and commented, letting me know what you liked and maybe some of the things that you're making this week. And don't forget to subscribe because there's always going to be something new going on in the crafting world. I wish you a very productive week of creating and making things. And don't forget that the science is there to help you do that. Bye.